Good morning. This is a brilliant question. Thank you for asking it. Is there a book or anything written explaining how God created El, Yahweh, Asherah, and other gods and goddesses? When it comes to the Canaanite pantheon, there isn't anything that explicitly comes out and says, this is how the pantheon came to be. I wish. But there is a story, there is an epic that some scholars believe is a cosmology, a beginning of the pantheon. And the story is called The Birth of the Gracious Gods, Shahar and Shalim. Shahar and Shalim directly translate to dawn and dusk. Shalim is dusk, Shahar is dawn, and dawn is actually mentioned in Isaiah 14. I've done videos about that. I can go into it further if you want, but before we do any of that, let's go back to this creation idea in Shahar and Shalim, the birth of the gracious gods. In it, El happens upon Asherah, and when he sees her, he gets aroused. So we get to watch El get a boner and seduce Asherah. So El is walking along the waters. He comes up out of the waters and he's walking along the beach and he spots Asherah and he's immediately lit. Strong like bull. Remember, they were represented as El was represented as a bull for a long time, as was Baal, as was Yahweh, until he wasn't allowed to be, till he was aniconic. And he says to Asherah, hey, if you like what you see, if you call me husband, I will be your husband. If you don't like what you see, just call me daddy and I will be your father. And I know, please, that's why you should not call people like daddy. Ew, like only your dad. That's And Asherah is like, oh, I like what I see, all right. He got that thing out. So she's like, come on, hubs, bring it on. So they do their thing. They kiss, they conceive, and Asherah gives birth to Shahar and Shalim. And now their appetite is ferocious. Like, so El sends them out into the wilderness. And I think it's almost like a litmus test to see if they can take it. Can they survive out there? You know, are they really gods? And of course they survive and whatnot. But again, doesn't truly sound like the birth of this grandiose pantheon, but it's not always going to be put like that. We're not always going to have a very black and white explanation of things. We have to use our imagination. And certainly inside the language, like the actual Ugaritic translation, there's things that in the English translation we don't hear. For instance, oh God, this is going to be long. So you asked me about creation epics. Well, I'm certain that you know about the Enuma Elish from Mesopotamia, where Marduk creates the earth from Tiamat. Tiamat is the saltwater sea dragon. She's the mother goddess, from which everything is created from in their epic. Now, Tiamat is cognate with Tihom in Hebrew and in Ugaritic. So in the Bible, in Genesis, Yahweh is hovering over the waters, the deep, Tihom. So there's echoes of that old creation myth, the Enuma Elish. Similarly, in the Ugaritic texts of Shahar and Shalim, the birth of the gracious gods, El is similarly pictured as being like on top of the Tihom. So another echo of that old creation myth. So sometimes there's doing and saying things without directly saying it. Does that make, I hope that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to diverge for just a second, since whoever stuck around at this point must really love mythology. Take, for instance, the saying, from the river to the sea. It's a harmless phrase. It means nothing but good things. But I was like, why does that bother some people so much? And then I was wondering, is there a possibility that the creation myths, the chaos Kampf, is based on the supreme God sitting on top of the flood, sitting on top of the river and the sea, and specifically in Canaanite myth, river and sea is known as Yam and Nehar. And Yam and Nehar are specifically called out in the Bible, and Yahweh is angry at Yam Nehar because he is the supreme God sitting enthroned over him. He's got it in control. He's controlling the chaos. Yahweh in the Bible is the God of order for the Yahwehs. So he sits enthroned. He's the supreme deity. And in Canaanite myth, Ba Hadad is the supreme deity who sits enthroned over top of the flood, over top of Yam Nehar, the sea dragon. And in the older myths and legends, same thing. Marduk would be the one enthroned over Tiamat. What if the reason that this just cuts people so deep is because it's a reminder of the echo of the supreme deity supposed to have that control over river, sea, Yam, Nehar. But Yahweh doesn't have that right now, right? He doesn't have, he never has, right? People think that he's had that control, but that's just in their minds. That's not the truth. He's not sitting enthroned. He's been deposed for thousands of years, correct? So maybe that's why it frustrates people so much, because the Palestinian people, are they themselves the one sitting enthroned over the river and the sea? They are free. There is no controlling them anymore. Isn't that kind of wild? And y'all know I don't believe in the Bible, but I do kind of think history repeats itself because people want to live within the confines of the Bible. I certainly don't. I want to be free of it, which is why I think education is really important, especially biblical. Anyway, before this gets too long, did I make any sense? Do you want me to go any deeper into any other stories? You let me know. I love this stuff. And I also think that it's important to kind of keep it relevant to what's happening. Because, you certainly can say things without saying things. And I've been saying things without saying things on this channel for a very long time. And I'm just taking a page out of the book of my ancient ancestors. So